What's up, you sweaty nerds and greasy degenerates? Swarm Disaster has kicked everybody's butt at least once so far, so I thought it would be good to start going over some different strategies, ideas, different builds we can use to get those clears. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the skill tree really quick, okay? So, guys, listen, okay? You don't have to rush through this game mode. You don't have to rush through difficulty 5 just so that you can go brag to all of your friends and everybody you know, hey, look at me, look at me, look at Mr. Cool Guy, because I rushed through difficulty 5 with my pay-to-win account, doing nothing but playing this new game mode for over 7 days straight, doing nothing but that, pissing into bottles and eating takeout the entire time, just so I could clear the game mode and then brag about it to everybody else afterwards. It's not impressive. There's a lot of RNG effects in this game, and there are a lot of different factors that play into whether people are able to clear or not. You're not, impressing anybody by clearing this mode before anybody else necessarily. There's nothing wrong with being proud of what you've done, but don't go around making other players feel bad just because you spent more time in this game mode than they did. Because check this out. There are a lot of different buffs that we can get by just playing in the skill tree, and it will make clearing the content a lot more easy, such as Preservation Path. By the end of Preservation Path, you get 36% defense put onto your team all of the time. And these paths, every single one of these buffs and every single one of these paths will give you buffs that are applicable to all paths. This is active literally all of the time. Every single one of these buffs stacks up with every single other path, and they all will give you benefits while you are in this game mode. Every single one adds up, and some of these are the same. Some of these will have, 6% damage from your Path of Resonance or something like that, but you have to add up every single one of these that comes through, and there's more than one path that might say, give your Path of Resonance a 6% damage buff. All of these will add up, and so in my recommendation, I would say, hey guys, play these skill trees, build up your skill trees, and then it will be a lot more fun and easier to clear. You don't have to rush it through the difficulty 5. And you can also play these different quests. The more quests you complete, the further down you go, and I believe at the bottom here is the propagation path. Once you get propagation, some of the characters you have will be able to lean into the propagation path and literally clear the content super easily. I know plenty of players that just grinded this game mode super hard just so they could just so that they can get down to the bottom, get propagation, and then clear the new difficulty 5 with propagation alone in order to be able to clear it. Okay, that is a pretty solid strategy, but please, I recommend you guys enjoy this game mode. Take your time with it. Don't let it piss you off for silly reasons when you can totally just build up your skill tree, build up the different quests, and clear the content in a way that you find enjoyable rather than just grinding it on difficulty 5, bashing your head against a wall. Most of these quests are able to be cleared on difficulty 3 and 4, so just remember that, okay? You don't have to play nothing but difficulty 5. So there are a lot of different paths that we can choose to clear this game mode, and all of them are viable in their own ways. However, I will admit destruction tends to fall off in the higher difficulties because it requires us, or we want to have lower health with destruction. However, we're not as good, we're not as survivable when we have low health in this game mode. It's going to suck and we're going to get one shot, so destruction tends to fall off admittedly. But, abundance and remembrance and preservation seem to be very, very reliable paths to choose in order to get some of those earlier clears. A lot of people want to open up propagation right away. It does require us to beat, I believe, all of the quests in order to be able to open it up. So I wouldn't necessarily rush it too hard to get propagation. You will eventually get propagation if you just keep playing the game and clearing those quests and building your skill tree. So you don't have to rush it to propagation. But I'm going to focus on abundance in this particular video because there are a lot of different benefits that I think a lot of players will really enjoy. For example, let's go ahead and look at the path buffs right here. Dimension effect. When the first or second plane begins, applies Mercy to 2 random domains, and it has a continuous effect where the countdown is reduced by 2 extra counts. When entering a domain with Mercy effect active, the countdown will instead increase 1 point, and every countdown point increases all allies' outgoing healing by 5%. Let's go ahead and just look at this first dice roll effect. It immediately applies Mercy to 1 adjacent domain of every domain that already has Mercy. Okay, so let's go over this real quick. When you enter a domain that has Mercy, you're able to increase the countdown. If your countdown goes down too far by the time you get to the end of the stages, it's not going to be a good time for you. Okay, you want to keep the count, you want to clear it before the countdown gets too high, because it's simply going to buff the enemies way too much. So you want to be able to clear it a lot sooner than that. And the great thing about Abundance is, without even having to think about it, Abundance allows us to basically completely bypass the countdown effect, because we're constantly going to be increasing the countdown through this particular path. Abundance automatically cheeses the game mode a little bit by basically having us not ever have to worry about the countdown. So what I like to do in Abundance is I like to use Abundance to apply Mercy to a bunch of different domains, and then go around the map picking out, tailor-making a really strong build by going into these different zones, like making a really solid, reliable build that has a lot of health behind it, and going to all the little trotter rooms, because we get more blessings in the trotter rooms. If I feel comfortable enough, going into the elite domains so I can get curios. And every single time we enter a domain that has, I believe it's the Mercy effect, we increase our outgoing healing. Or sorry, every countdown point increases all allies' outgoing healing by 5%. Yeah, so we're constantly increasing our healing, and what does Abundance do? It heals us. That's our main benefit from the path, is that it heals us. But in this mode, we get a really strong effect where we're increasing the countdown, so we can literally go around the map. And rather than people like rushing to the end, people want to rush to the end so the countdown's not super low. But in this one, we actually don't want to do that. We actually want to go around the map and pick up every little thing that we can, every little thing that we want, and make a super duper strong, powerful build with a lot of blessings and a lot of curios, because Abundance allows us to do that. And something else to think about when you are choosing different paths and when you are choosing different blessings is that this game mode has something called Interplay. We are able to combine different paths together in order to create different bonuses and different effects that aren't always available to us without combining the paths. So what does Abundance interplay with? Abundance interplays with Nihility, which might not necessarily help every single one of us, because Nihility is pretty specific. Some of the Nihility blessings help any type of build, no matter which build it is, but a lot of them are DOT based, so you might not necessarily want to build for Nihility when you're on the Abundance path. But you can also build Abundance with Propagation, which is incredibly strong for basically any build, especially if you have a Dan Hung Inhibitor Lune, or a character like QQ, which everybody has a QQ, you just might not have her leveled up. Let's go ahead and look at the Interplay effect. After a character has their HP restored via Path Resonance, and if the healing amount exceeds the maximum HP, we recover 1 skill point. That's incredibly strong, and this effect can only trigger 1 time per Path Resonance use, but that's fine, we still get a strong benefit. And after triggering this effect, all damage dealt by all allies is increased by 30% for 2 turns. This effect can stack up to 2 times. So this is just the Interplay effect. This doesn't even count the blessings that you get from Propagation and the blessings that you get from Abundance, and it doesn't count the Path Resonance you're getting from Abundance as well. You can see here that there are a bunch of different ways that we can see the different applications and different interplays. Here, I found this on pridewind.gg. I'll go ahead and put a link in the description and in a pinned comment so you guys can go ahead and check this out for yourselves, and you can keep it active while you're doing your runs as a good reminder of how you might want to build your path and how you might want to build your play when you're in this game mode. And because abundance allows us to go into so many different domains, we're able to try to get a whole ton of abundance blessings in order to get all 3 path resonances available for abundance so that we can keep ourselves alive through our heals. It can even revive our team members if one of them goes down, and abundance resonance will enter the lineup with our team and go off every once in a while and heal the entire team at once if we're able to gather all 3. So we'll even go as far as to reset the blessings whenever available to us in order to go for these abundance blessings and get all 3 path resonance bonuses that we can get. It's also important not to forget about other important blessings along the way, though, as well. But because we're able to gather up so many blessings and curios through abundance, then we're able to also go for some of those really good blessings that are outside of our path. For example, Destruction has a blessing that spreads the damage to our entire team rather than only one member taking the damage, which is very, very strong and can help prevent us from getting one-shot by enemies as easily. Even if you don't have a Danheng Imbibitor Lune or a QQ on your team, you still want to lean into the path of propagation at least a little bit in order to get that bonus from the interplay with abundance and propagation. And I also very highly value blessings from the path of the hunt, because a lot of those blessings will help us regenerate energy and can give us speed. I really love the ability from the blessing from Path of the Hunt that every single time we down an enemy, we actually gain 60% of our ultimate back. And you can even upgrade that blessing as well, so that every time you defeat an enemy, you end up getting your ultimate back immediately. And a lot of the blessings on the Path of the Hunt will gain us so much speed and so much energy regeneration that you can end up having a build that pretty much has infinite turns, or at least it will feel that way if you manage to play correctly, especially with a Danheng on your team, or even a Blade on your team who can hit more than one enemy at once, and ends up deleting a lot of the trash mobs in that big boss room, giving you energy back, giving you your ult back, and continuing your run. You can basically have one character go over and over and over and over again, and if you're on the Path of Abundance, this will also heal you. So it's kind of funny that every time you get a new turn, as long as your character's not completely dead, you end up actually fully healing yourself a lot of the time because you end up having so many turns in a row with each character. So besides the path of the abundance and propagation, I also recommend building into abilities that will give you speed and will give you energy regeneration and will give you damage bonuses and crit damage bonuses, because these are things you will need in order to still clear the content. We can't revive our team members infinitely. We can only do it so many times. We can't heal ourselves completely because the enemy will just get too many buffs and it will outweigh our scaling and outweigh our healing eventually. So you do still need to clear the content and get some damage out there. So don't forget about the damage through like Path of the Hunt, some destruction abilities, and even abundance abilities can give us damage output based on the previous character that ended up going into battle. I loved this one build I had one time with Danheng, where every time he attacked, he ended up buffing himself a whole bunch of times because he had so much speed. He was the next character to go in line, so he kept on buffing himself a bunch of times over and over and over again and giving himself a whole bunch of turns. I'll probably end up covering some more paths and some other build ideas as well, and if you have any ideas, go ahead and put them into the comments. I'm not perfect and I make mistakes and I forget about things sometimes as well, and I didn't probably notice every synergy with these type of builds. But anyways, if you guys found this entertaining in any way, shape, or form, maybe leave a like and subscribe. It really does help the channel. And if you hated this, you thought I sucked, you didn't like the video, maybe leave a hate thread in the comments, and I'll tell you how much more Jingliu likes me than she likes you. Anyways, I'll catch you next time. Peace out.